It's August of 1998, and I am curled up in the fetal position on a dark and cold and dirty floor of a bathroom on a ship, hauling itself all about in the North Pacific Ocean, puking my guts out, questioning all of my life choices. You see, this isn't what I thought a scientist looked like. I grew up in the Midwest, 1,000 miles from the ocean. I never knew a single scientist growing up, but somehow I'd convinced myself that I was going to be the next Jacques Cousteau. We shared a birthday. It was fate. And so in my brain, thanks to his books, the Shedd Aquarium in Chicago, every day I was going to put on a wetsuit and jump in this beautiful, warm coral reef. There were going to be sharks and smiling dolphins. But instead, I find myself in the North Pacific Ocean a few hundred miles off the coast of Oregon, above an underwater volcano, kind of wondering what went wrong. I was a brand new graduate student at the University of Washington, and a professor there had convinced me that this expedition was a really good idea, that I would kind of figure out my path. So we were at a volcano called Axial Seamount. It's about a mile deep. And earlier that winter, using underwater microphones, scientists had detected evidence for an eruption. But we were going to be the first eyes on the seafloor. We were going to send a remotely operated vehicle to the bottom of the ocean and see the aftermath of that eruption. So I wasn't feeling well, but I was really excited to see the seafloor. So just like everybody else, I kind of gathered around the screens and, was really jazzed to see the bottom of the ocean. But at the same time, I kind of felt disconnected from the experience, right? I wasn't there. The vehicle was experiencing this environment. But when those first samples came up, a geologist handed me this beautiful, glassy, shiny black pillow basalt rock. And I distinctly remember him handing it to me. And he said, "Julie, this rock is like 6 months old." And I thought, oh, like we are floating on a planet that is 4.5 billion years old. And I'm holding this newborn rock. Right? Like these are some of the youngest rocks on the planet. And it was a very swoon-worthy moment. Forget dolphins, magma uprising, lava erupting, life thriving on volcanic energy. I was obsessed. And so my love affair with Axial Seamount had begun. This was more than 25 years ago. I've traveled all around the world exploring underwater volcanoes, but I keep coming back to this one place. And like all long-term relationships, it's complicated. Axial has tested me. My first time as the scientist in charge of an expedition, I was faced with a really nasty weather report. And the captain and I were trying to decide if we should stay out or if we should go back into port. And I knew if we went back in, we wouldn't have time to come back out and do the rest of our work. So I asked the captain, "Do you think the ship can handle it?" It was a new ship to me. He said, "We'll be fine. We won't be able to work, but it'll be okay." So we decided to stay out. And then shortly before this storm came, the forecast got much worse. But by this time, all the ports from Vancouver down to San Francisco were closed. So we had no choice but to ride it out. And I distinctly remember watching the wind flip directions, the barometer dropped, and we saw this huge wind spike of about over 100 knots. And for the next 3 days, we were trapped inside with 60-knot winds, 15-meter waves, and I had to exit my zero-gravity cabin, which was beautiful, up forward, up top. I couldn't stay in bed. I thought I was going to die in the shower. I was walking at a 45-degree angle, and I found a really cozy corner in the midship library that I wedged myself into. But here I found myself again at Axial Seamount, puking my guts out and questioning my life choices. But somehow Axial always got me back when I thought maybe we should, settle down. I met my husband on a research cruise to Axial Seamount. We're over 20 years into our marriage. I think he's finally willing to admit Axial's my first great love. I dove in the submersible Alvin for the first time at Axial, and I remember that feeling of falling through the water column, sort of losing the surface light, and then you get this whole amazing new light around you in the form of bioluminescence. And this time, it was probably one of the most humbling and intimate experiences of my life. And then when I got the first glimpses of my shiny black seafloor, this time the only thing between us was a few inches of titanium. And, once again, Axial had worked its magic. So I never really thought falling in love with a rock was a thing. And I certainly never thought that one of the most meaningful relationships in my life would be with an underwater volcano. And my career looks nothing like, 12-year-old Julie living in the Midwest. But this one place in the deep ocean has brought me a lot, right? It's brought me amazing scientific discoveries, really wonderful colleagues, immense challenges, and just a lot of joy. And now I get to bring new scientists out to Axial, right? I get to kind of watch their faces light up when they get to see the shiny black seafloor. And then I just kind of sit back and Axial works its magic. Thank you.